Yo, what is going on YouTube, and welcome back to another video today where we're going to be looking on how to turn your H pattern shifter into a sequential shifter. So you're probably clicking on this video because you're trying to use a sequential shifter, but you don't want to spend $300 on one of the nice fancy ones, and you already have an H pattern shifter. So you're probably wondering how to turn it into a sequential shifter less than $5. And in today's video, I'm going to show you how to do that. So let's get straight into it. Okay, so here we are. We got the standard stock Logitech shifter. It's the H pattern shifter. You can see you can go to first all the way through 6th gear and then reverse. And that's what you would use if you were driving with the clutch down here, like I am right there. But we want to make it to where we need a sequential shifter, which is basically means you can go up or down gear. You don't have to worry about clutching, and you can keep your foot on the brake, which is a very useful tip for those who are like driving. Like for me, I'm playing Dirt Rally 2, and you constantly have to brake. So a sequential shifter is going to be a very big benefit for that game and some other games. So this is what you're going to get stock with the shifter. So let's take a look on how to turn it into a sequential shifter. So some supplies you're going to need before you get into things. Starting off, you're going to need some rubber bands. As you can see, I got just a bunch of them. They were probably like $2 at most, and you get a ton of them. Next thing you're going to need are some M4 screws, and I want to be very specific on the kind that I used. There's a couple types that you can use. But I know for me, this is what worked for me. And there was a lot of videos on YouTube about how to do this, but they weren't really specific on what kind. They would just specify what brand or what type of screw, but they didn't specify the thread size. And so I ended up going to the store and purchasing 2 of the wrong screws and had to go back later that day and give me the right screws that would actually work. So what I'm using here are, as you guys can see, are M4-0.7x, which is the thread, by 16 millimeters, and that's metric. Okay, and here is what they look like. They got a pretty tight thread, but this is honestly the biggest thread I can find for these particular Allen wrench screws. So let's go ahead and show you guys how to use these screws and some rubber bands to turn this into a sequential shifter. Oh, and also I forgot to mention that you're probably gonna need some sort of tiny Allen wrench. I don't know what size this is. I just found it in a little toolbox, but most people are gonna have this on hand. Okay, so now we're gonna take our Allen wrench and we're gonna see these 2 screws to the left and right of your shifter, and you're gonna go ahead and remove those. We'll start by removing this left one here with our Allen wrench. It's pretty simple. They untighten very easily. You do gotta be careful because Logitech did not go expensive with this plastic. The plastic in here that they use is pretty cheap. But here's a look at what the screw is that comes inside the shifter. It has quite a bit of bigger thread, but that's okay because this is cheap plastic. It'll be fine with our 0.7 threaded screws. Okay, so now we're gonna take the right one out real quick. Okay, so now that both of those are out of the shifter, it is time. Now we can use our M4 screws that I just showed you, and we're gonna insert these guys into the left and right of the shifter. And I will warn you that they are gonna stick out, and that's the whole point of this, is that they stick out higher than all of the other screws. And we're going to use that to our benefit to put some rubber bands on it. So let's go ahead and tighten these down, but don't tighten them too much because the plastic will start to rise and it can break. So just be mindful of what you're doing and pay attention to the plastic. And if it starts stressing on the plastic, be sure to loosen it just a little bit. Okay, so that should be good. You don't really need to tighten any more than that. As long as they're in there snug and they're not jiggling around or you can't pull them out with your fingers, then they're perfectly fine. So let's go ahead and get our rubber bands now. And I kind of just try to pick out similar size rubber bands. You can also use something like an O-ring, which is just like a sealing ring that is used to like seal pipes. And they're very, very tight, and you can put just one of them around this and it actually looks a little bit better. But the point is that we want to be able to push this down and it automatically pushes itself back up so that we can go up and down gears rapidly. So what I do is I start with one of the rubber bands and I take it and I put it around the shifter. So we're going to put it on top, and then I will twist it on one side like this. We're going to twist and then put that over the screw like that. And then we're gonna do the same to the other side, but in the opposite direction. So we twisted clockwise on this way. We're gonna twist clockwise on this way, which will be the opposite of that because we flip sides. And we're gonna keep doing that with all of ours. So what I do is if I went clockwise on the first one, I'll go counterclockwise on the second one. So I'll go left side and then counterclockwise right side. And I try and keep the leather pulled up quite a bit. That's just personal preference. It doesn't matter if it is or not. But we're gonna keep doing this. We're gonna keep putting on rubber bands on these screws, and then we're gonna see how it fits on the end. So as of right now, it's actually pushing it back, but it won't push the top back. So the bottom is a little bit stronger than the top. So that indicates we're probably gonna wanna put a couple more rubber bands on this shifter. And as you guys can see, it still doesn't really wanna push itself back. So we're gonna add another rubber band. Okay, so there we go. I think I put about 7 rubber bands on there or so, some thicker, some thinner. It really depends on what you wanna use. It doesn't really matter. You can also use different colored ones so it doesn't stand out so much. Like if you wanted to use black, that would probably be a little bit better of an idea. But as you guys can see, I can push it down into fourth and it pops back to neutral, and I can push it up into third and it pops back to neutral. That's exactly how we want it to set up a sequential shifter in the game. So I'm gonna head into Dirt Rally 2 and we're gonna do a little bit of a test, and I'm gonna show you guys how to also set it up so that you can use sequential shifter in any racing game that you want. Okay, so here we are in Dirt Rally 2 and we're gonna get into how to set up the sequential shifter, because most likely yours is gonna be set up on the H pattern shifter or just automatic. And we're gonna show you guys the settings and input of how to set this up as a sequential shifter. So you want to go into your game settings here, and you want to go to your preference, depending on what you have it on. You can have it on automatic, semi-auto. I had it on H pattern with clutch, and that was the standard 1st through 6th gear, and you had a clutch with your left foot. But we're going to turn that on to manual sequential. And now we're going to go over to our input, and we're going to click on our Logitech G29, and now we need to go to where the gears are, and we need to change that to 3rd and 4th gear. So to gear up, we're going to pull down on it, and that's going to be gear 4, and gearing down, we want to go up on the sequential shifter, so that is 3. So we have gear up as gear 4 and gear down on gear 3. So let's go ahead and get into a little bit of an example. We'll go to free play here real quick. Okay, so here we are. We're in Spain here, and we're going to give a little bit of a demonstration on how this sequential shifter works. So let's go ahead and hold the handbrake and get going. So you guys can see I can switch gear up and down with that.
6 right, 100.
See, I pull down and push up to go down and up a gear.
2 left, extra long, tightens.
We're not going to judge my driving because this is first race on. That's all right. As you guys can see, I don't have to take my foot off of the brake actually, and I can just focus on braking and switching gears, and I don't have to waste any time taking my foot off of the brake, which saves a lot of time actually on your time trial. So this definitely makes it a lot easier to speed up your time trials and definitely get a lot more wins. So
6 right, into cut 5 left, opens 150. 2 right, opens 4, extra long, 50. 4 left, tightens 3 over bridge. 30. 4 left long, opens into 5 right, 100. Narrow 4 right, into short, 6 left, 40. 4 right, opens 6, and crest into 2 left, don't cut. Into 5 right long, 3 left long, tightens 2. Opens 6 long of a crest.
Okay, so there you go. That was just a little demonstration. We're not going to do the entire race. I just want to show you guys how it works. It's actually fairly good. It feels just like a sequential shifter. If you already have an H pattern shifter, there is absolutely no reason that you need to go spend $300 on a shifter when you can spend $5 on this and have just something that works exactly the same and feels almost just as good. Okay, so it's that simple. That's pretty much it that I have for you guys. just some rubber bands, 2 screws, and you have yourself a sequential shifter if you already have the Logitech G29 shifter. This is definitely a great thing to have. It definitely increased how fast I was racing because mentally I drive a manual, but when you're on the track going that fast, it is so much easier to think about braking instead of brake, clutch, then brake again. And you have to think about what gear to throw it in as well instead of just throwing it up or down. So sequential shifters are definitely a big plus to have, especially in a game like Dirt Rally 2. I highly recommend you guys check out this cheap mod for the G29 shifter if you guys are trying to get a sequential shifter for cheap. And that's going to be pretty much it. If you guys did enjoy this video, please smash the thumbs up button. It'd be very appreciated. Other than that, guys, I hope you guys did enjoy the video, and we'll see you guys in the next one.